And now, Dean Forgione with a spoken word piece. I don't practice Santeria. I ain't got no crystal ball. Well, I had $1 million, but I'd spend it all. If I could find that hyena and that Sancho that she's found, well, I'd pop a cap in Sancho and I'd slap her down. Episode 30 of The Performers I Know, with special guest Eric Rosen, coming at you. These are the performers I know, I know. These are the performers I know. These are the performers I know, I know. These are performers I know. These are the performers I know, I know. These are the performers I know. These are the performers I know, I know. These are performers I know. All right, here we go, everybody. It's another episode of The Performers I Know. Welcome to the show. How do you do? This is episode number 30. Oh, yes, it's the Dirty 30 episode. This week, this man, I highly feel he is the hardest working man in Staten Island when it comes to the theater scene. Every time you turn around, this man is in another production. His resume is about 16 pages long, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's a consummate professional and a good friend of mine, all the way from Studio Staten Island. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to give a round of applause to Mr. Eric Rosen. Eric, welcome to the show.
Dane, thank you. Happy to be a part of it.
Well, I'm happy to have you here. So, once upon a time, around 2003, 2004, I went to St. John's University. I met Eric when we were both pledging for a fraternity. He got in. I did not, which is okay because I sabotaged myself. This might be a startling revelation, but I didn't actually want to be in a fraternity. So, yeah, it just wasn't for me. But that's all right. And yeah, actually, when I first met you, Eric, you didn't I don't know if you had shown signs of wanting to be an actor or be a performer because the first thing that I remember is you joined the Stagers production of Little Shop of Horrors. Now, um, let me ask you, so was that when the theater bug bit you, or was it earlier? Like, what got you interested in doing acting?
Oh, much, much earlier when I was in public school and I did a performance of the circus and I played the ringmaster. It was that was when the theater bug bit me that day, and because I love performing in front of people, entertaining, and just feeling the crowd, the audience reaction, just it got me, and I was like, this is what I want to do.
But, you see, I didn't know that. That is a startling revelation about you.
Yeah,
You,
this was like back, yeah, PS3, yeah, many, many moons ago.
oh, I see. Well, there you go. So you played the ringmaster, and I don't know, did you blow fire? Did you whip the lions? Did you pie the clowns? What do you remember anything about that show?
Nah, well, I do remember, the costume I had, the general ringmasters, the red outfit, with the tail out and the black buttons, and just coming out and introducing all the different acts, the strong man, the tiger, all the different performance that you would see in the circus. So I even said, like, ladies and gentlemen, like I was the ringmaster at Ringling Brothers.
Oh, I see. Well, that's pretty cool. I didn't know. I actually thought that it happened during college that you were bitten by the theater bug. So, hey, listen, look at that. We learned something new about Mr. Eric Rosen.
Oh, and
Yes. So we did Little Shop of Horrors, and it was just the one thing I remember is we shed cast members like a snake sheds skin. I I really Michael Toda, who was our director, had his work cut out for him because it seemed like every other rehearsal somebody was quitting the show. Um, and because of that, Eric and I got different roles that we played. It was actually quite interesting. What would do you remember your memories of that wonderfully wacky show?
in the beginning, of course, wanted to be the dentist, that was played wonderfully by Steve Martin in the film version. But the one thing I lacked was I couldn't sing to save my life. So there was no way I was going to get cast in that part. And they cast the right person for the role. But of course, hindsight is 2020. At that time, I was like, oh, I should have got that part. Why didn't they pick me? But now I think about it and I reflect on it, it was the right decision at that time. And as Triple H would say, it was what's best for business.
Uh,
And
something tells me Triple H wouldn't have been looking at Staten Island um, college theater like, oh, this is great. I'm gonna stick my big nose into this here production.
but at the time, yeah, it was just good to get a part, to just be a part of it. But of course, you always want to get the part of parts. But I had a great time with it playing Mr. Martin, and I was able to make that part my own. And I also had to do the opening salvo of Skid Row and some of the whatever else that was needed of me. And yeah, but at the end of the day, it was a fun show. And I even got to do the introductory, yeah, monologue, to get everybody excited about the show.
Yes, I do remember that, and it
So
was pretty goddamn intense. I'll tell you what. I seem to remember people like, "Ooh, this show's gonna be crazy, like going off the rails here." Um, I remember I got to play several different characters, including Mrs. Luce, and I just remember I messed with Johnny Herron a lot in that, and he did not like it one bit. And I got to admit, I antagonized him a little bit because I kept grabbing his butt, and he would, "Hey, can you not do that?" Like, wait, what's that, John? Oh, you want me to do that again? Oh, sure, I can do that. So yeah, um, and from there, I remember the floodgates opened, and as I have stated, Eric has been in many, 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 many
many
roles.
shows.
Many. He is the hardest working man in Staten Island. I'm telling you. It seems like every time I turn around, you're in another show. Um, but I feel like one of the best performances that we did was when we were in a little show called Wait Until Dark, which that was a whole other kettle of fish because we actually had to literally replace an entire cast of people who I don't want to get into it right now, but everybody just left this particular production, and Elisa D. Simone um, and Alberta Thompson had a little powwow, and I just remember Elisa was like, "Hey, everybody, guess what? We're gonna be emergency cast replacements." And yes, it was all. I think that was probably one of my favorite villain roles that I ever did. What was your? And hey, I also got to stab you, Eric. I
You
hope I, I hope I didn't hurt you too bad.
No, you that was the best stabbing that ever happened on stage.
Well,
But I remember when we got the call, and it was, I think it was like a conference call with all of us together, and we found out that we were coming on board to do the show. And it was originally supposed to be in October, then they moved it to November, so it gave us the chance to rehearse. And on top of that, we were doing Peter Pan at the same time.
oh, I feel like didn't we wasn't Peter Pan sandwiched in between weekends for that show?
Yep, we did 6 day a week rehearsals. I think it was like 5 or 6 weeks that we did that, and there were days we were either at the Little Victory Theater or we were at the church, and St. Paul's Episcopal, and it was just it was hour. There were days where it was like 2 hour rehearsals, 4 hour rehearsals. The Saturdays were like 6 hour rehearsals. I mean, the only rest we got was the part of Saturday we didn't rehearse and all of Sunday.
It's true. That was a very you see, I don't know how it is how old these youngsters nowadays can be like in two, three shows at the same time. Zoe Rock, my dear little friend Zoe Rock, she just wrapped up doing two shows at the same time. She's in another show in a couple of weeks, and I'm just like, I don't have the energy for that. I can barely do one show at a time. But yeah, I it was a lot of turmoil behind the scenes originally for that Wait Until Dark, but it all worked out in the end. What was your thoughts, Eric, going into something of such like a horror, basically, essentially a suspense thriller horror play?
Well, with I had no idea what it was about. Like any other show that I've done, there were some shows I knew going into it what it was about, but this one in particular, Wait Until Dark, I had no idea what it was about. So of course, I wanted to do my research, and find out the synopsis, at least get a general idea and gist of the show. And I even went onto the TCM website because it was also a film too after it was on Broadway, and I bought the DVD. I was gonna watch it, but one of my things that I don't like to do, and I stopped myself thankfully from doing with this particular show, is watch the actor who played the character I'm going to portray on stage, because I don't want to do the same thing they did. And I know this may come off very third person ish, but I want it to be Eric Rosen's interpretation of playing Mike Tallman in Wait Until Dark, not me recreating what Richard Crenna did.
You know, I totally agree with you, and I always tell my younger theater kids when I direct them, do the role the way you want to do it. Don't do an interpretation of it because nine times out of ten, it doesn't work. Um,
And you
you
put
got to
so
make
much. I'm sorry, you go ahead.
you got to make the role yours, is what I was going to say.
And not only that, you put such undue pressure on yourself trying to recreate what they did.
It's true. It's absolutely true. So we chugged along. Um, we did a lot of shows with Elisa D. Simone at the Staten Island Academy of Performing Arts. And yeah, there's so many that I just cannot remember them. It numbers in the dozens. Do you have any particular favorites that you did in that time period?
Oh, they're in the beginning. And by the way, if it wasn't for the years of 2015 with Anthony Wilkinson getting me into My Big Fat Gay Italian Funeral, and you in 2016 getting me back into theater, I don't know if I would be doing theater today. So I owe you and Anthony a huge debt of gratitude for that.
Well,
Uh,
thank you. I appreciate that. And actually, it's funny that you say that. Big gay Italian funeral.
yeah,
You gotta give me because I've heard of like Tony and Tina's wedding and all that rigmarole, but I've never heard of my big fat Italian funeral and Uncle Rocco Drop Dead. Tell us a little bit about what that play is about.
Well, Anthony Wilkinson, of course, from Staten Island. His family is, they own the proprietors of Rabs Bowling, and Anthony is a playwright, and he has four plays already that he wrote, all in the same universe. He wrote My Big Gay Italian Wedding, My Big Gay Italian Funeral, My Big Gay Italian Midlife Crisis, and My Big Gay Italian Christmas. So this particular show was about, if I can remember, the synopsis, is this was back in 15 when I did this. So if I'm not saying everything correct or everything completely accurate, I do apologize. But I one of the characters I got to play, and so many others got to play, was a non-union part where I got to play Ezio Donatelli, who is the head of the proprietor of a drag gay bar. And he is sort of has this unrequited feelings towards the main character, Anthony. And I remember having to pick up a drag queen who was like big strong guy, like 200 pounds. I'm like, oh God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pick this guy up. Thank God he helped me along the way, because I would probably break my back with
Hmm.
any strong guy that I had to pick up. But he was so nice. And what's funny, one of the actors in the play was Mike Sorrentino. The Situation, his brother was actually in the show.
Did the situation come see the show?
Nah, he probably came to another performance before that, for all I know. But yeah, it was, and he was so nice too as well to work with. Everybody in that, including Anthony, who helped me prepare for that part. And it was my first time. That was in 2015 when I did that show, May 2015, and it was my first show since Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, okay. So you took a little break from the acting.
Well, it was also a break, but also because of the fact that I didn't get the part that I wanted in Shop of Horrors. I had this stupid, upsetness, or feeling disenfranchised. I didn't get the part I wanted. Why do I bother? It was really, in hindsight, it was really stupid of me to take this long period of time to get back into theater. Now that I think about it, because again, hindsight is 2020. And
True.
but I'm lucky that that this opportunity came along. It was actually because of the executive director of Eden 2, Joanne Garanser, who knew Anthony very well as well, who connected me to him to do this role. And it reignited my passion. And then I didn't do anything for a year till you messaged me back in August of 16. It was during the Rio Games. And it was supposed to be, I remember it was a Dick Tracy show, but we didn't end up doing it. Instead, though, I came in to be a part of the cast of Oliver. And
Yes.
it was really fun. Again, I can't sing to save my life at all. I know other people have told me, oh, you're not bad. No, please don't be charitable towards me. I
You
sing
know, you say that, but I could, without any hesitation, say that I'm probably a much worse singer than you are. I mean, I'm sure everybody who has heard this podcast knows that I tend to say that that's my worst quality. I don't like to I don't like to say that I'm a terrible singer, but the last time I sang, Greenpeace came over thinking that I was harpooning a whale. But no, it turns out I was not in fact doing that.
Uh,
But
I never heard that from you. I think you're better, way better than me. Believe me, we'll have a contest.
well, yeah, listen, the check's in the mail. Don't worry about it. So, as
uh,
I've said,
I'm sorry. You go ahead. I'm just like, yeah,
you just
interrupting.
just spitballing in the wind there. But Eric has done many shows, and even comes a time where he had certain shows that he looked at. And what I really appreciate about Eric is that he sometimes he thinks outside the box a little bit, and he apparently came up with. the idea for performing in a show called Red, which I believe was based off of the life of Mark Rothko.
Yep, that was we did that was May of April 29th to May 1st of 2022. Or yeah, 2022. Me and Mac Lease. Uh
Yes.
and how that came together was I was in the living room just going on Playbill's website, checking to see two-person shows to do because me and Matt wanted to do a show together, and I saw Red, and I had no idea what the heck it was about. But I further researched the play. I was like, wow, this is really interesting, because Mark Rothko, a lot of people who may not be familiar with his work, was a famous abstract expressionist painter in the 30s to the 50s, even into the 70s, and his paintings are just geometrical uh squares and all rectangles with different colors, mostly oil-based canvas paintings. And this was about a period in his life where he was commissioned to do the uh restaurant that was for the Seagram Corporation. And it was, it takes place in his loft, and between Mark, which was Morocco, played by, of course, Mac Lees, and me, Ken, the assistant, and the tension that they had, but also the lessons and the way they played off each other too at times, or the contentious relationship that they had.
And if I recall correctly, Mark Rothko gave up a substantial amount of money um, because it did not fit his artistic vision. And he just said, no, you know what? I'm not doing it. Don't even bother. He ripped up the check, or he refused the check. And it's like, that's very commendable to
He
me that
was
a guy could do that, and stick to his guns like that.
he was definitely a very complicated person for sure. He had his demons too, like a lot of artists do. Uh, but he also had his principles as well. And he was just a very interesting man. And his paintings, yet simplistic, yet also very striking too. And they're still shown today with some and highly valuable as paintings. I myself, when I was preparing for the play, I went to Michael's and bought canvases and Artist Loft paint a paint kit, and learned and tried to learn to make my own Rothko style paintings. In fact, two of the paintings in the show were I did it that were on set.
Oh, very proud of you. Maybe you should start painting. I heard you paint houses. What do you think about that?
Yeah, right.
Hmm.
That is not happening. But
Well, I don't know. I guess it was worth a shot.
yeah,
Um,
no, unless you like pay me really well, I like millions, it ain't happening.
you know, do you happen to know the actual meaning behind the word painting houses?
Not really, but
I'll explain it when you're a young fellow. Um, Now Eric has not just done um, Staten Island Theater. He's done a couple of my virtual shows, and I think one of the best performances that he did was when we did our An American Tale live reading, where you played Digit, the little bugaboo fellow,
oh yes, oh
and
my
you did,
God.
oh no, oh, this is terrible, no. And I just remember the first time we rehearsed, everybody started laughing when you did your little Digit voice.
That nearly
So
killed me. That voice. Just it definitely hurt my throat at times, but I was like, it, but I was able to get through it, thank God, and not, have a hoarse or scratched throat. Um, but it was fun too at the same time.
you know, it's that is one of the most requested shows that I've done. And the fact of the matter is that show was nearly a disaster because our live feed got disrupted. And it's like,
Oh yeah.
What? Have a nervous breakdown? Me? No, certainly not. I totally almost did. But it worked out. We re-recorded the second half of the
Yeah.
movie, and yeah, people liked it. So that was um that was great indeed. Now, Eric, you just wrapped up a production of Lend Me a Soprano, which I heard went very well.
Oh, it was really fun to work with this cast. I played the bellhop, but originally in because Ken Ludwig, because I know you did a previous show before that, Murder on the Orient Express by the same playwright,
That's correct.
and he also did Lend Me a Tenor. So this is sort of Lend Me a Tenor in reverse, except there's
Mhm.
this the soprano, and with the bellhop in this version, it was supposed to be a female, but they had me play the bellhop, and I renamed my character instead of Beverly, Billy the bellhop.
Billy the
Uh,
Bellhop.
yeah, very clever on my part. And it was really fun. And I remember when I took the role, that I said to Rose that so this is kind of like Niles in The Nanny. He's like, yes, exactly. Think of
Mm.
it like that. And that's how I approached it, with the character. To be fun, playful, a little annoying, especially towards Miss Wiley, played wonderfully by Eileen Augustine, and just yeah, just annoying her was one of the best parts, and of course her choking me out too,
Mm.
and because of that annoyance and me wanting to take a picture of the soprano, and just overall just being a menace, but also he's a fun, lovable character too,
And
and
didn't
the
didn't Andres also throw you around a couple of times?
no.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What you say?
Andres.
Oh,
Uh,
and Andrews? No, no. Our
no.
characters, yeah, because he played Leo Leo the Flying Dutchman. Our characters actually never had any
Oh, okay.
dialogue with each other.
Well,
Um,
he beat me unmercifully. He was throttling me within an inch of my life. And I remember during one of the rehearsals for Murder on the Orient Express, he grabbed me by the lapels and he actually lifted me off my feet and he was, you know, and then immediately afterwards he's like, "Are you all right? Like, did I hurt you? Like you're like no, just keep doing it like that, Andres. Like don't." Because he was like very gentle at first, and Mike Schiavo was like, "No, you gotta really shake him." Like so he did. So I was
I
very
love Andres. He's great.
He is great, yes. Do you have any shows coming up, Mr. Busy Man?
Not at the moment. Right? I am going to audition though to be a part of Epic Players, which is a Manhattan and Brooklyn-based theater company for neurodiverse people on the spectrum, and
Hmm.
like myself. And I have an audition for them. I just have to get my monologue together. I'm wrestling with some ideas, but I have to do a 60-second monologue. And they wanted a 30-second song, but I again can't sing. So in lieu of singing, I can either do impressions or another monologue or something else to highlight my abilities acting wise, and then a 10-minute interview. So they blocked a 30-minute section for me on Zoom while I'm on my vacation in Florida next month, which thank God will only be a half hour to do. And then
Right.
and let's see if I get into this company. It's to see to be a part of them. And the good thing about Epic too, if you get into the company, they do everything is 110% free, as they said in the website. Everything from classes to shows. In fact, if you get into a show, they even pay you on top of that too.
Ooh,
Like
look at
it's
that.
like they do so much for their actors as well, and there's because there's that singing aspect that I keep talking about over and over again, that is something I want to improve upon. I'm not looking to be Josh Groban. In fact, I have to apologize to him for butchering a couple of his songs. Along with many other people, I still owe Lionel Richie an apology. And yeah.
I spoke to Lionel Richie the other day, and I don't know, he seemed kind of angry. And Josh Groban, though, he was cool with it. He was like, "Oh, that's all
Yeah.
right. I'm Josh Groban. How did you do?"
Yeah.
So starting to run out of time. I can see by the old clock on the wall. So we have time for just one more question. And Eric, my question to you is this. If somebody were to come up to you and say, "Hey, Eric, I am looking to break out into acting or singing or dancing or doing impressions or whatever," what would be the piece of advice that you would give them in order to best succeed?
Well, if especially with acting, just find your inspiration for any performance. Find that passion, that fire. Find that thing that's deep inside you. To break out that best performance, I guess. And also, if you want to get into acting, start with community theater. There, especially on Staten Island, we have a plethora of theater companies. And the great thing about all these theater companies, you don't have to go to a fancy conservatory school. I have gotten a lot of my formal training in acting because of community theater, and meeting all sorts of people who have given me such great advice over the years, like Kara and Rena and Jack, and with Alberta and Rose and Matt and Gary and Joe, and so many people who have really there's too many other names for the sake of time of the show, but that have really helped me along the way. So I would say to that person, find that passion, find that fire, find that desire to do this, and find community theater to start off with, and get your formal education from them instead of spending thousands at a conservatory. That is where you get your lessons in theater from them, and then take it from there and see where it will take you from there. If it takes you to the professional world, great. If it doesn't, though, and you're just doing this for fun, good too as well. Either way, just keep at it, and don't give up and don't get discouraged too. Just because you also don't get a big part doesn't mean you're unimportant to the show. Every part has a purpose and importance to the whole aspect of the show
It's true.
as well.
Very true. One time I felt something deep down inside during an audition. Turns out it was just a belch. And I was actually much better afterwards. Well, as our outro takes us out, I want to thank Eric Rosen for joining us. Eric, thank you very much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Dane, for the opportunity. I know there was other stuff that I wanted to say, but I know we have like a strict time, but I do want to thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this, and I want to thank everybody in community theater again for being welcoming to me and for the opportunities I've had.
And everybody, thanks you for your talent, Eric. Well, so long, everybody. We will see you on the next episode. Goodbye.
Bye.